Rise and shine. Get dressed. Check your phone. Scrolling. Okay, stop scrolling. Hit the gym. What time is it? Skip the gym, out the door. Miss breakfast? Grab a healthy snack. Out the door with your $6 mocha latte. In the door, say hi to Jim. Meetings, read the emails, reply all, delete, check Facebook. How about the gram? Scrolling, take a selfie, post a selfie. No likes. Self-esteem in the toilet. Is it lunch yet? Mondays are the worst. More emails, more scrolling, more projects, and done. Clock out, head home, veg out. What's for dinner? Take out. Eat, sleep, do it all over again. I gotta ask, you good?
Well, good morning, I'm Pastor Mike, and I get to bring the word today. Excited about that. We are jumping back into the series where we're talking about things like mental health and asking each other the question, are you good? You doing all right? And so we're going to jump into this and see what the Word has to say about these kinds of things. Last week, Pastor Justin gave a great message where he talked about God and depression, just great helps out of the Bible about what you can do if you're in a season like that, or if you know somebody else, and great encouragement for them as well. So jump back on our website. You can catch all of our sermons there, or on our YouTube or podcast as well. We've got questions that go along with these sermons to help you take the sermon a little deeper, to discuss with your small group or your family. Great opportunities for those as well. Today, we're going to talk about family at the holidays, or in Lions terms, since we're doing a watch party later, one pride. Right? Is that how we say that? Okay. Just trying to stay in good terms with all our Lions fans here. But anyways, when we think about families at the holidays, some of us get really excited about that, and then for some of us, it's kind of like a mixed bag, or maybe not so exciting because we think about those times and they can be tough as well, right? Whether your family gets together once or twice a year, or you get together all the time, there can be some moments of dysfunction. And there can be arguments and tough conversations. And maybe, honestly, it makes you dread the holidays a bit, or at least some of the gatherings. So I wanted to start us off today by playing a game. Maybe you've seen this as a show on that's called Family Feud. We're going to try that and see if I can create some arguments this morning, right? Why not? So I'm going to bring up one of the questions for you. And with this game, if you've never seen it before, what you do is typically they pit like one family against another. I'm just going to pit you against your own family this morning, okay? So whoever you're with, if you're by yourself, I guess you're the victor, but you can keep track of your points, and then you have the bragging rights over everybody else because you got all the points, okay? So you win no matter what. But either way, play with us this morning. So what they do, they pit families against each other, and they're trying to figure out what is the most popular answer to the question. And you get more points if you get the more popular answer. So we're going to go through this morning. The first question is, what would be the most popular traditional Thanksgiving food? Now I'm going to give you a second to think here. You can write it down if you want to. You can put it in your phone. Obviously, there's 6 answers. If you want to write down more than one, see if you can get more than a couple. That's fine right now. We'll let you do that. There's big points for the first one. I'm going to be honest. Big points for number 1. All right. See, you guys are cooperative. This is nice. Some of you are like, no, I ain't sharing with you. Turning away. Yeah. Competitive types in the room. That's all right. All right, let's see if we can get some of the answers. What'd you get? Anybody get, what's the most popular traditional Thanksgiving food? What do you think? Turkey. Turkey, all right, we all got that one. Once turkey's out, now what is it? Yeah, there we go. We got some of these up here. Stuffing made the list. Mashed potatoes made the list. Pumpkin pie, ham, you get you some cranberry sauce. All right, keep track of your points, okay? You got it? See, I told you, if you got turkey, you got 48 points. That's a big one. And then I don't know if you got any of the rest of them. That's a tough one. All right, let's do one more though, right? Let's do one more and see if you can get some more points. Reasons people are late to Thanksgiving. This is none of you, I know. None of you are ever late to Thanksgiving, but other people, reasons they might be late to Thanksgiving. All right, writing down your thoughts? Yep, same people are being cooperative. That's great. Same people are still turning. That's great. All right, what do you think? Top reason. What do you think is the most popular reason people are late to Thanksgiving? Weather. I hear weather, traffic, kids. Your kids never make you late. We know that. All right, let's see. Go ahead and show them. Traffic is number one. That's the most common excuse. Watching football. I think that one should be higher up on the list. I hear that one a lot. Maybe I use that one. I don't know. All right, so who got the most points? You tally up your points? Tally up your points? You guys are elbowing each other a little bit. We're already causing problems this morning, right? But this is how it can be. You can have some issues in family even over things like this or games, right? Like some of my family experiences, we don't play games because we know that they don't go in the right direction. They don't end up well. It just causes problems. But we're going to jump into the Bible today to talk about a family in the Bible that's got some issues when they get together, and see if this can shed us some light on how we can step into this holiday season and some things that we can bring forward from that. So we're going to jump into 1 Samuel 19. We're going to read 10 verses to catch up on this story. And as you're flipping there, or as you're popping it up on your device, let me give you a little backdrop. So this is a story about Saul and David from the Old Testament. David's the guy who slayed Goliath, right? And Saul is king right now, and David is not king yet, but has just been anointed as king, and Saul's been rejected as king. But that hasn't quite come to pass. He's not actually the king yet. But there's some things in the story that I think can really help us. David's not perfect. If you've read a lot of David's later life, you know that he had some major issues, right? Like he did some terrible things. But early on in his life, especially at this point, these are the things that, when you hear that David was called a man after God's own heart, these are the things that draw me in. And whenever I hear that, or when I hear that about somebody, I'm like, wow, okay, I probably should pay attention to this person, because if they're being said about, or it's being said about them that they are a person after God's own heart, that's high praise. I want to take notice of this and take some notes on maybe what they did that made them be in line with God and after his own heart. So, but we're going to read this story. It's a story about a messed up gathering, and we'll see if we can gather some insight. So 1 Samuel 19, we're going to read 1 through 10. So bear with me as we go through this. Ready? Saul told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. We're starting off well. Jonathan had taken a great liking to David and warned him, "My father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning. Go into hiding and stay there. I will go out and stand with my father in the field where you are, and I'll speak to him about you, and will tell you what I find out." Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul his father, and said to him, "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He has not wronged you, and what he has done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine." That's Goliath. "The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason?" Saul listened to Jonathan and took this as an oath. "As surely as the Lord lived, David will not be put to death." So Jonathan called David and told him the whole conversation. He brought him to Saul, and David was with Saul as before. Once more, war broke out. David went out and fought the Philistines, and he struck them with such a force that they fled before him. But an evil spirit from the Lord came on Saul as he was sitting in his house with his spear in his hand. While David was playing the lyre, Saul tried to pin him to the wall with his spear. But David eluded him as Saul drove the spear into the wall. That night, David made good his escape. All right, so we've all had this happen at our gatherings, right? We're hurling spears across the room. Hopefully not. At least not physical spears, right? What a messed up gathering this is. So you've got David, right? And I don't know if you know this about him, but he's a good musician as well. He wrote a lot of these psalms, a lot of the songs that are in there. He's a great musician. And at one point in his life, before this even, he would go and he would play for Saul because it would calm him. It would bring him peace for some of the things that were troubling him. And so when you see that in this story, it says that David goes back to Saul and he's playing the lyre for him. Not the lyre like you're a liar, but it must be an instrument. Anyways, he's playing the lyre, and he's doing that as a gift to Saul. But this is just, it's kind of crazy, right? So for whatever reason, Saul, probably jealous, probably a lot of things, gets mad at David. He's like, all right, everybody, we're going to kill him. And then Jonathan, his actual son, comes in and says, whoa. David's a good guy. He helps you out, gives you all the glory. It's helping Israel. And then things go to peace, and David comes back. He's playing the music again. And then Saul loses it and tries to kill him again. And then he takes off. Like, this is a crazy gathering. That is a lot that is going on. My question would be just, if you were in this situation and you're David, what would be your response? Right? What would be your response in this situation? Is it to fight fire with fire? Right? Like, he's throwing a spear at me, I'm throwing a spear right back. Right? Maybe at your gatherings it's not an actual spear, but maybe that's the natural reaction when you come into things is, I'm going to fight fire with fire. David, get him back, get him. And it can be worrisome as we come into the holiday seasons because we know that there has been dysfunction in the past, or maybe there's a toxic situation that we have entered in before. But what I notice about David is that he didn't let the dysfunction of his father-in-law become his dysfunction. Did you get that? He didn't let the dysfunction of his father-in-law Saul become his dysfunction. So that's my encouragement to us as well. Don't let their dysfunction be your dysfunction. We don't have to take that on and start acting in the same way. There's a chunk in Romans I'm going to put on the screens for us here that just will help us a little bit with this thought. It says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy or family member is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So far as it depends on you, right? Like, an argument takes two or more people. But as far as you can handle it, be at peace. That's what he says. And this is what David does, right? Like, he's trying to be at peace, and obviously it's two parties, so it's not really working. But in the middle of it, that's what he's trying to do. He refuses to fight back in this situation. And he's not fighting fire with fire, or poison with poison, or rumors with rumors, mean words with mean words, or anger with anger, or barking with barking. So I don't know if you guys know this. I have a dog, and it's a Newfoundland. She looks like a small bear. She's all black. I copied Justin, so you can take the credit, Justin. Anyways, I want to show you my dog because she's a little dysfunctional, okay? So I'm going to show you a little video here, and you can get to know her, and I'll explain why she has problems, all right? Let's take a look. There she is, eating a pumpkin decoration. Thank you for that, right? Let me give you a little backstory here. So we've got these little pumpkins sitting in my backyard, and these squirrels are numerous in my area. Maybe they are where you are as well, but the squirrels think that those are there for them. They're like their snack. They're like, oh, thank you, that's great. And my dog thinks that that is her job to protect. Like, how dare you steal our pumpkins, right? And up until this point, she had never touched the pumpkins or anything, but she went out there and she noticed that they had nibbled a hole in the top. And the squirrel had like dragged the pumpkin halfway across the yard, and then she saw it and went out there and did her job, I guess. It's barking like crazy. And I think in spite of the squirrel, decides to eat the pumpkin. She sits there and she eats the whole thing. Do anybody have dogs eating pumpkins? Right? Like, this is weird. What are you doing? She hasn't eaten one since, but I think that day she was done with it. She's like, that's it. I'm getting you back. You're going down. No pumpkins for you. I'm eating this whole thing. Toast. She felt a little weird afterwards. It was not fun, but she ate the pumpkin. So, but this is that's part of her dysfunction. She thinks that things are all hers, and that she needs to let everybody know that they're in the wrong. So she has this place in our backyard. I'll tell you another quick story. She has this place in our backyard on that picnic table that is her perch, okay? Yeah, this is winter in Michigan, but this is her perch. She dug that little hole out herself. She climbs up on there all parts of the year, and as a rooster, she decides that it's her job to serenade with her lovely voice the whole neighborhood. And I cannot handle it, right? And so my automatic reaction when she gets up there and she's barking at everything is to bark right back, right? Like, get off of there, dog, what are you doing? How dare you? And I'm walking out there and my neighbors have just got to be like, this guy's losing it, right? Like, what is he doing? It's clearly not working. My daughter, the other day, she comes up to me as I'm complaining about the dog barking, and the dog is outside barking, and I'm trying not to yell at it. And she goes, listen, I know how to do this, Daddy. I'm like, okay. So she runs off, and I hear some wrestling and boxes and things are falling, and I'm like, great, we're having more problems. She comes running back and opens the door to our backyard, and she goes, Lana, come here, in the cutest little girl voice you can ever imagine. And Lana doesn't. She goes, you want a treat? And she drops the treat on the ground, and it makes a noise that the dog identifies as breakfast. And she comes running right in. I was like, come on, really? Like, you're not even doing the dad voice. Like, you're just doing the cute little girl voice. And all right. Dysfunctional dogs, dysfunctional families, they're everywhere. I think one of the reasons why David is able to enter into the situation and see things differently, and not to get pulled into the dysfunction of Saul, or maybe I should not get pulled into the dysfunction of my dog, is he sees Saul differently. He sees Saul as God sees Saul. He sees people as God sees people. He knew that Saul was God's anointed, appointed by God, and killing Saul would go against God. And Pastor Ron talked about alluded to this a little bit earlier, and I thought it fit well here, so I wanted to just read the verse. So there was a point where Saul was out looking for David to kill him, right? And he goes into a cave to rest, and David happens to be in the same cave, just maybe further back, and they're like, oh, look, Saul's here. Now's your chance. Get him. We're going to take him out right now. And this is David's response. I want to show you this verse. He says in 1 Samuel 24:6, he said to his men, the Lord forbid that I do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of God. Right? Like he gets that God's the one that's in control. God's the one that's setting the things. And so he wants to be in line with God and how God sees people. Now this can pan out to all of us, right? Like maybe your family isn't the anointed one, but we were all created in God's image. He made us in his likeness. And I want to treat each person that I run into with that in mind, that they are created in the likeness of God. Not that they're acting that way, but they were created in the likeness of God. And just as I need forgiveness, they need forgiveness as well. And what I like even more about as I think through this story is, so David sees people as God sees people, but he sees it also as my mission is God's mission, right? It's not mine to do. I want to be on board with what God's doing. So he doesn't try and just take things in his own hand and, I'm just going to kill Saul and make this all happen right now. He's on God's mission. And so he's about bringing life. So even in that even earlier in the situation, he comes back, he plays music, he tries again to bring peace into the family. And if we want our families to be different, we need to do that, to bring life to our gatherings, whether this is family or friends or even work gatherings, and we can do this. If we want these to be different, we can start making the small changes in our own lives to make it different, to go with a mission in mind. And maybe your mission in mind isn't to play the music for the people. Maybe it's asking intentional, caring questions, right? Like you go and you think ahead of time, okay, I'm gonna try and sit down with this person. I'm gonna try and ask them one question, one sincere question about their life, and see if I can ask intentional, caring questions just to listen to them. Or maybe it's at the gathering to serve the others there before being served. I'm just gonna serve. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm not gonna keep track of this person served. They did the dishes, and you know what I mean? But I'm just gonna serve before I get served. Or maybe it's, you've got to set some boundaries in place, but we got to do it with respect and love. It's okay to set the boundaries and to say, I can only do this much, but to do it with respect and love. Or maybe the mission is to be like Jonathan, right? Did you catch Jonathan in the story? We haven't even talked about him yet. But he wants reconciliation, right? He wants them to be at peace, and Jonathan goes and he speaks on David's behalf. He's like, Dad, what are you talking about? David's good. Like, he's a good guy. I hear you speaking bad about him, but listen, like, he fought the Philistines for us. Like, everything he's doing is benefiting Israel. Maybe that's your role, is to speak well when you hear others speaking down about other family members. One of the other things we can do that I noticed, this is maybe taking a little bit out of David's immediate story, but over his time, David was patient with change. He waited for years, right? He was anointed, and then it took a long time. I challenge you to read the rest of his story in 1 Samuel later. It took a long time for things to pan out for David. And things panned out, and Saul reconciled a few times, and it ends up falling the way that God has said it would. But change takes time. If you want change in your family, in those family gatherings, remember, it takes time. Give space for that change to occur, for people to process this good that you're bringing to those gatherings, to process what's different for you. See, I think Saul had his family members in mind. Saul had himself in mind, right? He's like, all right, my family members, they're here to serve me, and when they don't serve me anymore, or I don't think they're any more use, then I'm going to cut them off, literally, right? David saw his family with God in mind. So how are you viewing your family? Like Saul or like David? Are you viewing your family with you in mind, or are you viewing them with God in mind? What is God's hope for your family? How can you see your family as God sees them? How can you bring life? How can you be patient with change as you enter into these gatherings this fall, this winter, and not let their dysfunction become your dysfunction? We're going to enter into a time here in a moment of communion, just to give us a moment to reflect, as maybe there's some things that you're thinking about right now that I need to get myself in line with God and keep him in mind, him as first and not me. And I want to get right, and I want to make sure I'm right, and I want to remember. And so we're going to take a moment here to do that, to remember what Jesus did for us. I want to give you just a little bit of instruction here. You don't have to be a member of BridgeWay to take communion here, but you do have to be a member of God's family. Having believed in Jesus as your Lord and accepting his sacrifice, which gives you life. If you haven't done that, and you would like to, you can simply pray to do that right now. So I'm going to pray real quick, and if you want to choose to follow him, you can do that with me. Jesus, I admit I've done evil, and I accept your forgiveness. You are my Lord and God. Amen. It's as simple as that, right? It's as simple as that. In a moment, the band will start a song, and in that time, feel free to reflect and talk with God. And when you're ready to come to the communion tables and to take the communion cups, there's juice and crackers, and they're all in one little cute package. And there's 4 tables in the room. There's 2 up front, and there's 2 in the back. You can go to whichever one you'd like, and you can consume the communion elements on your own when you're ready. But now that we have all the instructions, let me go ahead and I just want to read this chunk right from the Bible to help us remember about communion. In 1 Corinthians 11:23 through 26, it says, "The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread. When he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes.'" Let me pray. God, we thank you so much for who you are, that you are God who loves us madly, so madly that you sent your son to this earth to pay the full price for us, the full price for all the evil we ever done or will do. You took it through your son. His death on the cross pays it all. God, thank you for that. Thank you for that gift. And God, as we think about this season, as we think about maybe the dysfunction that we've brought or we've gotten pulled into, that God, you can help us to step forward, that we can keep you in mind, keep your purpose, your mission in mind as we go into these gatherings, that we can love like you do, that we can live like you do, and we can remember you always. And God, as we prepare to continue to worship you and to take this communion, we give you all the glory because it's yours anyways. We give you all the praise. We pray this in your name. Amen.